5,500 years ago, the Sumerian people of Mesopotamia developed the first system of writing, now called cuneiform. A reed was used to inscribe soft, damp clay tablets with various types of symbols. These inscriptions communicated the language of the day. They are the earliest human voices we hear. They connect us to a time and people that we could otherwise only imagine. These clay tablets give us a clear picture of society and culture at the beginning of civilization, as well as the character of the people, their beliefs and values. And now, Grant Peeples with Clay Tablets.
My fellow Americans, our long national nightmare is over. Our Constitution works. Our great republic is a government of laws and not of men. Here, the people rule. That's words from Gerald Ford that he spoke when he was being sworn in as President of the United States on August 9th of 1974. Mike Pence, you repressed, joyless would-be witch finder. Every time you spoke, you always looked like you were straining to expel an enormous bolus of your own hypocrisy from your clenched sphincter. Betsy DeVos, you blandly foolish, soulless, entitled, child-stealing witch, rotting like a corpse inside your Chanel suit. Kayleigh McEnany, you evacuated husk of a mean girl cheerleader, the cavity where your heart once was, pumped full of spite and moronic lies. Bill Barr, you vast, pompous, pus-filled bladder of casuistry. You are an enemy of justice, bloated with resentment and cruelty, and wobbling like a jelly gob at the feet of the oligarchs. Jared Kushner, you vacuous, dainty, preening, over-promoted nub of mediocrity, squeezed like an entitled smear of toothpaste into a silk suit bought with the tear-stained dollars wrung out of the suffering tenants of your slum apartments. Ivanka Trump, you monstrous slug of vanity, you infantile ninny, so marinated in self-regard that in your pea brain you believe we ought to love you for your crimes. Mike Pompeo, you bubble, you booby, you flatulent zero, that thing roiling in your ample gut that you mistake for world-shaking significance is just the acid reflux of irrelevancy. Donald Trump Jr., you scabrous, single-nostriled, unloved, elephant-murdering human wreckage, vibrating with bitterness and impotent rage at all the opportunities you have squandered. Sarah Saunders, you crude, hulking, beetle-browed bully, working your multiple chins as you masticated another stinking quid of falsity, spitting again and again on the very people you were supposed to inform. Eric Trump, you pallid, clammy, suppurating, nocturnal, semi-human grub. Your absence of charisma is your only notable trait, and the act of flushing you from memory will be smooth and painless, so much so that in a month people will find it hard to even picture your mooned face. Rudy Giuliani, you capering, cartoonish, skull-faced bag of graft and corruption, too stupid even to ask who's pulling your strings, just so long as you can cake your crusty face in TV makeup and clack your jaw at the cameras. And last, but certainly not least, you, Stephen Miller, you weeping pustule upon the social body. You dreg, you homunculus, you noxious slime filched from the gaping cavity of Jim Crow. One day, may you find yourself walking barefoot across hot sand, desperate for water and crying for your missing child. And with that, I rest my anger. It is January 20th, 2021, and I am off to find a street corner to dance upon. A worried man with a worried mind. Nothing in front of me, ain't nothing behind. A woman on my lap, she's sipping champagne. She got white skin, assassin's eyes. She's staring up into the sapphire skies. I'm a well-dressed man, I'm waiting on the last train. I'm standing on the gallows, a head and a noose. In any minute now all hell will break loose. You see, people are crazy, and times are strange. I'm locked in tight, I'm out of range. I used to care, but things have changed. This town ain't doing me any good. I oughta be out there in Austin or Hollywood. For a minute there, I swear I thought I seen somebody move. I'm gonna take dancing lessons, do the jitterbug rag. I ain't afraid of nothing, I'll dress in drag. A fool would feel he had something left here to prove. Lot of water under the bridge, lot of other stuff too. Don't you get up now, gentlemen, I'm only passing through. You see, people are crazy and times are strange. I'm locked in tight, I'm out of range. I used to care, but things have changed.
You've been walking 40 miles of bad road. If the Bible is right, your world will explode. You need to get as far away from me as you can. You see, some things are just too hot to touch. The human heart can only stand so much. You're never gonna win holding that losing hand. Woman you meet, putting her in a wheelbarrow and wheeling her down the street. I said people are crazy and times are strange. I'm locked in tight, I'm out of range. I used to care, but things have changed.
I hurt easy, I just don't show it. You can hurt me bad and not even know it. Well, the next 60 seconds, they will be like an eternity. I'm gonna get down low and rise up high. All the talk in the world, it's one big lie. I'm in love with this woman and she don't even appeal to me. Mitch McConnell, that turtle, he's a snake. The people of Kentucky made a big mistake. 'Cause people are crazy and times are strange. I'm locked in tight, I'm out of range. I I used to care, but things have changed. I used to care, and everything has changed. This is called capital punishment. I wonder if when the mob left the rally and descended upon the Capitol building, if they had simply taken a knee and bowed their heads in quiet, peaceful protest there at the foot of the Capitol steps, rather than breaking down the doors and barging in and killing people, if those who voted for the man whose name was on the flag they waved, would they have been more outraged then than they are now? So, like all of you, I saw footage of what happened on January 6th, and history will have recorded literally tens of thousands of hours of what happened. And I was tempted to do a little montage of that tonight. But I decided I was just going to pick out the one which was kind of like, to me, the most salient description or representation of what happened there. And we got a video clip that shows that.
Ma'am, what happened to you?
I got maced.
You got maced?
By the police.
And what happened? You were trying to go inside the Capitol?
I made it like a foot inside, and they pushed me out, and they maced me.
What's your name? Where are you from?
My name is Elizabeth. I'm from Knoxville, Tennessee.
And why did you want to go in?
We're storming the Capitol. It's a revolution.
Thank you.
I have no idea how one would respond to that. But I have no idea how to, but Stephen Colbert, I think he figured it out.
It's a revolution? And you're complaining that they maced you? In a real revolution, when you lose, they chop your head off. And then your little piano scarf doesn't have anything to wrap around. Wouldn't that be sad? If you don't believe me, ask failed revolutionary. Oh, wait, you can't, because they chop the head off. And that's where they keep the ears and the mouth. Really poor planning on the whole head thing.
I have a friend named Susan Jones who sent me a limerick. She didn't write it, but she found it. I just want to read this. A mob of the MAGA persuasion conducted a state house invasion, and though heavily armed, they parted unharmed, and that's how you know they're Caucasian. All right. Well, thank y'all for being here tonight. We're going to check in with our resident librarian and co-producer, Donna Maddy, to see how everything's going. Donna, are you there tonight?
I am live in Thomasville, Georgia, broadcasting from my crow's nest. Yes.
Hey, well, it's good to talk to you. It is our penultimate show tonight. Penultimate. That is a penultimate's one of those words. To me, it doesn't sound like what it means. You know what I'm saying? It's like penultimate would be to me like the grand finale, but that is not what it means. It means second to last. It's like right. It's like the word smitten. I always think the word smitten, like, man, if you're smitten with me, I think you'd be like pissed off at me. But if you're smitten with me, that means no, you're not. You're actually. But anyhow, enough of that. Anything on the thread from YouTube that you need to tell me about? Is anybody raging because they don't have their link? Is everybody okay?
Well, I have to tell you that they're all doing well, and some people are even learning to cast it to their TV. So your show is helping them to become technically advanced.
Oh, man. We can credit ourselves with that, by the way.
Yeah, right. That'll be one of our credits in life. But a lot of buzz about the opening song. So I thought it might be a good idea if you let folks know who that wonderful vocalist was singing.
You mean the woman that came in here and sang with me? Yeah.
Yes.
Her name is Maddie Walsh. And for the people who have been viewing the show for a while, Maddie she's made these kind of little cameo appearances on the show from time to time. We've played some videos of her and her band, and she's done some other little segments. And she is from Ithaca, New York, and she has a band called The Blind Spots, and she happens to be in Tallahassee right now. Is going to be here for a while. We have all COVID tested and quarantined and done all of that, which means we are in our own little pod, and they're going to be here for 2 weeks. And we have been hugging we get up to go to the bathroom and we just hug each other. It's been really cool to be able to hug somebody. And but yeah, that's Maddie Walsh. And I also need to say two other things. The song we were singing was a Bob Dylan song, and also I want to say that opening piece, the scathing rhetoric, unfortunately, it was not mine. It was written by a writer by the name of Hari Kunzro, and I found it, and we put that to music. We read it, made a little production for you. So,
as a librarian, I'm going to spell that because so many people wanted a copy.
We are
A-R-I.
Yeah,
H-U-N-Z-R-U.
Yeah, it's H-A-R-I. Kunzru, and I tell you what we're going to do is we're going to make a little clip of that video, and we will put his name on it when we do, and we will share it with all our clay tableteers. All right, so I tell you what, since we were talking to the resident librarian here, I think we will roll from the resident librarian to our new little segment we've been doing for a few shows now called Vocabulary. Grant recently picked up.
Vocabulary, say that loud, loud. Vocabulary, that's what it's about. Vocabulary, that's what it's about.
Okay. Our first word tonight is sclerotic. Now, sclerotic is a word that you probably have heard. It's also from sclerosis. It has to do with the spine, but it is used in a more metaphorical sense as well, to grow rigid or unresponsive, especially with age, unable or reluctant to adapt or compromise. And I have a word use example here for you. It will be interesting to discover whether the last 5 years of the undeniably sclerotic U.S. Senate was simply a tactic of Mitch McConnell, or is now an institutional infirmity. The next word is casuistry. And I learned this word from the piece that from Hari. He had that in there, and it's a tough one for me to actually pronounce, casuistry. And here's a word usage for that. Ted Cruz's undeniable mastery of casuistry will again prove no match for his equally undeniable failure of morality. There you go. Okay, another word, and this is a word I was kind of familiar with, but it's just one of those words I'd never gone pulled out and say, okay, what does this actually mean? Inimical, which means tending to obstruct or harm. It's often a legal kind of term. And here's the word usage again. It remains to be seen whether McConnell's equivocation on the impeachment question will prove to be inimical to his only real goal, which is to reclaim the Senate majority. And then the next word is recusant. Now, it's a person who refuses to submit to an authority or to comply with a regulation. And I learned this word because I'm taking a Shakespeare course through FSU right now. And this was a word that was used for the Catholics who kept holding on during the time of the Tudors. They just couldn't, they called them recusants. And they were persecuted. And here's a word usage for that. Republicans have become almost reflexive recusants, from their refusal to wear masks to their balking at metal detectors in the Capitol building. Now, I want to tell you that those word usages that right there, I subbed that out to somebody who was much more masterful with language than myself, a guy by the name of Bill. He's a mullet fisherman, and he's the guy, mullet fisher, and he's really good on words and vocabulary, and I asked him to do it, and he did a great job. But we have one more word, and this is palingenetic. And it's pertaining to the concept of rebirth or recreation used in various contexts in philosophy, theology, and politics. There's actually a thing that is referred to as palingenetic ultranationalism. And that what it means is that, well, let me just read you the word usage here. Trumpism is palingenetic, meaning that its core myth is of a rebirth, of the redemption of an idealized nation of real Americans from the decadence and corruption, cultural and political, of effete liberal elites and malevolent socialists. The Make America Great Again mantra perfectly captures the palingenetic nature of Trumpism, as does the draining of the swamp and other tropes of purification and renewal. Palingenetic myth is a central pillar of generic fascism. And I got that from the very well-known Republican strategist Max Stepanovich. Those are our vocabulary words for this month.
Vocabulary, say that loud, loud. Vocabulary, that's what it's about. Vocabulary, that's what it's about.
Our guest tonight, we've been saving him up for the end here. There's a guy by the name of Gurf Morlix. And for any of you who are familiar with my records, you will know him. He has been my producer, engineer, and essentially my band on 5 records. He has been for the last 12 years, has been a close friend and a mentor, and just has played such a large role in my musical life and my artistic life. And we're going to give him a call tonight. But before we do, we're going to play a little video that he did of a song, and we'll just tell you about the song after we play this video.
Spent, well, I spent it in good company, and all the harm I have ever caused, well, I did it to no one but me, and all I've done for lack of wit, my memory now can't recall. So pour for me my parting glass. Good night and joy be with you all. and all the friends I have ever had. They are sorry for my going away, and all the sweethearts that I have loved, they would wish me one more day to stay. But since it falls unto my lot that I should go and you should not, I will gently rise and softly call. Good night and joy be with you all.
Gurf Morlix. That is as close to perfect as you can make a performance. I happened to be there when he was doing that. It was in a small room in Nashville, Tennessee, and it was at the Americana Music Conference, and Gurf was there because he was getting the Instrumentalist of the Year award. So, anyhow, we're going to give Gurf a call right now. This is always the fun part. Everybody, cross your fingers. Here we go.
Hello.
Gurf Morlix.
Who's calling?
This is Grant Peeples from Tallahassee. We're doing a program here called Clay Tablets.
How did you get this number?
Well, I got it from Donna Maddy, actually.
Oh, Donna. I love Donna.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Great.
Oh, okay. Yeah, everything's
cool.
Okay, good. Well, thanks for that. Hey, tell me about that song. We just watched Parting Glass. I forget the history of that. I know it's a really old piece. What is that?
Well, someone sent it to me. Someone from London emailed me a version of it a long time ago, and I listened to it, and I immediately loved it. And I had to work up my own version of it, of course, and it's a Celtic song, and so I had to change a few lines here and there because I can't sing in that Celtic way, and a few of the phrases I sort of texified, but I loved it so much. And the first time I ever played it was at my brother-in-law's funeral, and I barely got through it.
Right.
But then I started just playing it every day, and then I loved it so much I looked online to see who wrote it, and I found out that no one knows who wrote it, but it's at least 400 years old. It was written either in Ireland or Scotland at least 400 years ago, and some people claim Robert Burns may have had something to do with it. And that's certainly possible. But I think there's not a better song in the world.
I just don't know, and certainly that's your performance, and it shows that you played it 500 times before you decided to play it for anybody. I know that's your theory on how to do it. Hey, I have a question for you though. That song aside, like, what are you working on? What have you been doing for the last 10 months creatively?
Oh man. Trying to stay alive, basically. I've been hunkered down hard. I seem to be taking this pandemic thing more seriously than most people, and of course I'm somewhat elderly, and my health is compromised, and so I've been isolating pretty much totally, with very few exceptions, and trying to space out my risk taking and to keep the odds in my favor. So I've been recording. Luckily, I have a recording studio at my home that you know about. You've been there. We've done some recording.
I've been there a few times. But what about the work that you're doing? Like, what kind of, like, the songs? Like, what is you're isolated. You're really seeing nobody. And so,
but
what kind of
input coming from everywhere, and first of all, I'm addicted to the news, and that's part of it. But with the internet, this I have no problem with input.
Mm-hmm.
And like for the first, maybe for like March, I couldn't write, and then all of a sudden I just started writing, and I think I've written like 23, 24 songs in the last year. And because I'm just here, it's recording them. I work. I write every night, and I record every afternoon, and that's what's been keeping me sane, pretty much.
What about the songs themselves? Like 10 years from now, when you go back, when you hear these songs, do you think you will hear it? I've only heard a couple of these ones that you've recently written. Do you think you'll be able to kind of see the impact of COVID and the impact of the political strife and the impact of Washington? Or is any of that coming through, or are these pretty much the kind of songs that you've been writing all along?
They're kind of that way, but being isolated, I put out a record in July called Kiss of the Diamondback, and I recorded that in the first half of 2020. And there's a couple of songs on there. There's a song on there that I wrote after the pandemic started, and it seems very pandemic inspired. And then there's a few more on there. People started hearing the album. They're saying, "How did you manage to write all these pandemic songs before the pandemic?" And that's just a thing that happens to songwriters and writers. It's like you're thinking about mortality or whatever, and you're picking up signals from here and there. I thought 4 years ago, after more than 4 years ago, I thought there's going to be a slew of songs about the new president, and I really didn't encounter any, really. And I thought, well, I'll write a slew of them, and then I really kind of couldn't. I wrote one kind of right before this last election that I have recorded, but no one's heard it yet, pretty much. But it's called Beelzebub. But I thought there'd be a slew of them.
Yeah.
And I think it was so heavy and just so horrible that people couldn't even rise to the occasion. They're not the people that I was in contact with.
I was, I ran into the same thing. I really thought there were going to be a slew of George Floyd songs, and
there weren't any that I'm aware of.
Right, I'm sure there's probably some, but none of them really came out. And it's just sometimes some things are just, as that song I did, some things are too hot to touch. The Dylan line,
exactly.
and so hey, I have something else though. But so what about any silver linings? Have you discovered anything about your artistry, about your craft, about your skills, or have you discovered, or have you just had to learn some skills that you didn't have that you have now that you didn't going in?
Well, I've always felt that I just kind of keep getting better. I hope I'm right about that, but I think, every record that I make sounds better than the one before it, and hopefully the songs are better. Not being able to play them live takes away the ability to get an audience's take on a song, which always helped me a lot. So now I don't have that. But I don't feel much different. It just seems to be a logical extension to me.
Right, and maybe in the coming months, a lot of this is going to just smooth out. That's what we're going to hope. What's it like in Austin? I mean, Tallahassee's a capital, Austin's a capital. One of the primary differences is you're not allowed to walk it up to our capital wielding a automatic rifle. What's going on out there with any of that you can report back?
Well, I don't really know much about what's going on in Austin other than what I read and what I see on the local news, which is just ridiculous. But I'm isolated so hard here. I'm hunkered down so hard that I'm not really that aware of what the feeling on the street is. But I don't know if you've noticed this, but this alleged pandemic, it seems to be raging. And 400,000 people, and now they're saying 100,000 in a month.
Yeah.
So 500,000. Is that people have just become inured to those numbers, and until like people start losing like lots of loved ones, they're not going to. I mean, we've been desensitized.
That's exactly right.
How many is too many? I remember being horrified when I thought, oh my God, it might go over 100,000.
Right.
And now no one's horrified, and it's going to be 500,000 soon, and it could be 1 million by next fall. Yeah. Is that too many?
Yeah.
Where do you draw the line?
Yeah. There's this thing called the moving baseline theory, and it talks about it really applies to environment. And they talk about how even people who fishermen who caught all of these fish, and 10 years ago, and then every year they catch 10% less until they don't have any fish, and it's almost like they don't even know it's happened. Hey, I want before we go, I do want to. You haven't done any that I've seen any live streams or anything like that, but you do have a show. You are going to be playing with Ray Wiley Hubbard on Austin City Limits. Is it this coming Saturday or the Saturday after that?
Saturday the 23rd is when it is officially premiering. It depends on the local markets when they air Austin City Limits on the local PBS station. We taped it in late October, and I took a calculated risk. I really felt like Ray should have been on Austin City Limits like 45 years ago, and he never got asked, and no one knows exactly why, but and I produced 4 or 5 records for Ray, and I just I've always loved him and felt like I should be there, and I was torn because I was hunkered down hard, and they told me their protocols, safety protocols, and I made a calculated risk, and I skated through.
Well,
but they had to cancel their next taping because several crew members came down with COVID right after we taped ours. So anyhow.
Well, I will book.
Everyone I talk to they all tell me they're doing everything they can to avoid it, and then all of a sudden they get sick. Right. And it's like, obviously everybody has a different level of what they think is safe, and mine seems to be a way different number than most other people's.
Well, you got this far. I can remember my dad talking about he fought in Korea, and just talking about when when they knew the truce was coming, and they knew that those last few days you're going like, man, I really don't want to get it now, So
someone was the last to get shot.
Somebody's the last person to get to get it, and so don't be that guy. And so look, it was really great talking to you, and I'm going to tell people that that you basically just sell your records right on your website. There's only one, gurfmorlix.com, and I would encourage people to go there and see what you're working on. And you have another record will be coming out really soon as well, I believe.
I got 2 more finished and another one after that almost finished. And I don't know when they're going to come out yet, but they will.
All right. Well, thanks so much, and thanks for picking up. I guess it was a real risk. You weren't even going to pick up the call, and I really appreciate you doing that.
Yeah, well, luckily I don't have caller ID.
All right, Gurf. Say hello to Brendy.
Hey, thanks.
All right, man. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Stay right here, your heart, your hands, your hope so clear. There's an expiration to this fear. What are things that stay right here, your heart, your hands, your hope so clear. There's an evaporation to every tear. Hang in there, hang in there, hang in there and stay strong. strong. Hang in there, hang in there, hang in there and stay strong. You won't be here for too long. What's hidden away will all return again someday. True, some things may break, but we can bend in unexpected ways. Hang in there, hang in there, hang in there and stay strong. Hang in there, hang in there, hang in there and stay strong. You won't be here for too long. Pause, recalibrate. You weren't meant to keep that pace. Wash your dinner plate. Slower work may be what it takes. What are things that stay right here? Your heart, your hands, your hope so clear. There's an expiration to this fear. What are things that stay right here? Laughter, love, your friends so dear. There's an evaporation to every tear. What are things that stay right here? Your heart, your hands, your hope so clear. There's an expiration to this fear. What are things that stay right here? Laughter, love, your friends so dear. There's an evaporation to every tear. Hang in there, hang in there, hang in there and stay strong. Hang in there, hang in there, hang in there and stay strong. Hang in there, hang in there, hang in there and stay strong. Hang in there, hang in there, hang in there and stay strong.
Next up, we have Zeke of Augustine. Zeke is our resident cartoonist. He's from St. Augustine, Florida, and we've been showing his cartoons every month. This month, Donna has created a compilation of a bunch of his cartoons from the past month. Check it out.
Zeke of Augustine. You can find his work on Instagram. He goes under the name, he doesn't go over the name that I gave him, Zeke of Augustine. He goes under Ping Pong Lessons. He has been one of the real finds of this program, one of the things that I'm most thrilled about that we have discovered here doing this. There is a question that I think we've all been asking ourselves over the last few years. And the question is, how can people who have seen what this presidency is and what it's about, who even though they were on board early on, how is it that the revelations and the things that have come about not changed their mind about anything? And I have a little something. I'm going to have to read it, but and this kind of explains it, I believe. And it says, belief perseverance, also known as belief persistence, is the inability of people to change their own belief even upon receiving new information or facts that contradict or refute that belief. In other words, belief perseverance is the tendency of individuals to hold on to their beliefs, even when they know in their heart they should not. This is a psychological concept, but logicians, people who study the science of logic and the science of reasoning and critical thinking, see this as a cognitive bias, and they have a name for it. It's called the Backfire Effect. And they recognize and identify a deeper pathology in it, in that when beliefs get challenged by revelatory information that contradict the reasoning behind the belief, the believer can actually just dig in deeper. Like when your sister, started dating that loser guy, and you and your family and all her friends were like, whoa, sis, I'm not sure about this guy. But she leapt to his defense. And then a series of things began to follow that. I don't know, maybe, it became obvious the guy had a drinking problem, or he got fired from his job, or he beat somebody up, maybe even her. And yet, when all of these things happened, she seemed to just cling even more tightly to this idea that she had about him, because she had gone all in with him at the beginning. That's one example. And another example is the person who supported the 45th president of the United States early on, and after all the stuff that has happened with him since, culminating in the attack on our nation's capital, the belief perseveres, the belief persists. And this happens because when your core beliefs are successfully challenged, it can really rock the boat that floats your beliefs, especially if you self-identify by what you believe rather than what kind of person you are. So that's a really long way. I went through all of that. This is how my mind works. I went through all of that just to get to this poem called The Lesser Man. When a lesser man is proved mistaken by some choice he has made or a road that he has taken, though his wits revealed and his foundations shaken, with compass amiss and his self-image now forsaken, the lesser man is doomed to double down. Now for a little segment of the show that we only started a couple of months ago, and I'm remiss that we didn't start it right at the get-go, especially in light of what just Gurf and I were just talking about numbers. But now we're going to do the COVID numbers. And the first number that we're going to show is the number of deaths that had occurred in the United States from COVID-19 on our last show, which was December 17th. And the next number is the number I pulled off the interweb today, which shows the number of people who have now died in the United States from the COVID-19 virus. And there's a difference. Just do the math, and this is what we come up with. 109,053 people who have died in our country since we last did a Clay Tablets broadcast. That is twice as many people has died in the 30-year war in Vietnam. And I think it's important, and I've said this before, there was a broadcaster on CNN by the name of Aaron Brown, and during the first Iraqi war, when the death toll got to be to 1,000, he said it is important not to refer to it always as 1,000 deaths, but to see it as a death happening 1,000 times. Also, I just want to mention that my good friend Frank Lindemood, a really great artist and songwriter from Sopchoppy, Florida, since we last met, his mother died from COVID on January 6th, and you know what that date was. And also a real huge supporter of Florida folk music, Nancy Buchanan, passed away from COVID-19 last week, and I just wanted to mention those two names. And from there, we will try to bring a little levity into this and have our segment called Viewer Mail. So this month we had a lot of people write in. I was really happy about that. I don't know if it's just the end of we're coming to the end of this series, but I'm just going to breeze through these. This is from Sid, who's in Jacksonville, and she sent me this card with Justice Ginsburg on it. And she said, Ruth Ginsburg had the same intense blue eyes as my great aunt Ella. She was an amazing, independent woman who chose not to move into the 20th century. She lived into her 80s and refused to use electricity. She pumped her own water, used an outhouse, chopped wood for her stove and heat, and was a creative artist who sculpted and spun and weaved thread. But by the time I matured and understood a little more about her choices, it was too late and she was gone. So my question to you, if you could spend a day with one of your ancestors, who would it be? Well, I hate starting out with, this is a funny one. I'm not going to answer that, Sid, because I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to answer this in the next, in Clay Tablets 12 next month, if that is okay. I have a real answer for that, but it would be a little hard for me to do it now, and we're going to deal with your question in a big way next month. Thank you so much for writing that. Let's see here. Got one from Ethel. Ethel is over in Lake City, Florida, and she said, my question is, what will people say 500 years from now about the year 2020? When all hell broke loose in democracy in the United States of America under an egotistical, narcissistic, pompous jackass of a president. Well, here's my thoughts on that, Ethel, is we don't know what they're going to say 500 years from now. We won't know what they're going to say 500 years from now until 4 years from now. That's my thought about that. Also got a letter from the great artist Hannah Price, and we've shown Hannah's work here. And Hannah asked me a question. She said, do you think the earth is the insane asylum of the universe? Well, no, I really don't. Here's what I think, Hannah, is I think there is, this would be, the assumption here is that there's other intelligent life in other places, and I believe there's other intelligent life in other places. I believe that is absolutely, there's no way to deny that that's a possibility. But is there art in other places? Is there a creative impulse in that intelligence? And I think that might just be something that is unique to us. And because of that, I don't really think we're an insane asylum. She is, Hannah actually is originally from Melrose, Florida, but she now lives in a van and rides around the country and makes art. And this is from Janet up in Washington, D.C. And I've known Janet for a while. She asked me, she said, I'm glad for this opportunity to write to you because I learned how to spell Tallahassee. Is this an indigenous word? And it is an indigenous word. And I had to look it up because I really didn't know. But Tallahassee is indigenous words that means, please stay away from here. And I also heard from Amanda and Ralph over in Jacksonville. And she said, Grant, why is it that your fried mullet is so superior to all others? Please cite your sources, endorsements, and testimonials. Well, the secret of my fried mullet, and I've never really told anybody this, but I will tell you right now, is the grease. What some people call the oil, but when you're a mullet fryer, you call it the grease. And the secret is the grease. And it's not what the grease is. You can use all different kinds. You can use corn oil. You can use peanut oil. But the secret is the temperature. And the temperature of the grease, in order to cook the perfect mullet, has to be really, really hot, right up at the edge of being too hot. And that is the secret of knowing where that point is, so that you cook the best mullet in the world without actually messing it up and cooking the worst mullet in the world or ruining something. That also, Amanda, that's not only the secret to mullet, that's the secret to life. Oh, we got a letter here. This is a pretty long one, but this is from Brendy in Austin. And she just wanted to say, I appreciate thy diversity and content, from music and poetry to conversation and humor, including the Instagram post of cartoons from Ping Pong Lessons. That's Zeke of Augustine. Political cartoons, this is something interesting. She says, political cartoons belong in our society of free speech and freedom of the press. The first cartoon in our country accompanied an editorial by Benjamin Franklin, who was commenting on, quote, the present disunited state of the British colonies. And it was in the Pennsylvania Gazette in 1754. Today, Ping Pong Lessons has not only the insight, but also the great drawings to make this cartoon a record of our country. Just as cuneiform was created and put on clay tablets to record during its time. Thank you, Brendy, for that so much. And yeah, we love Zeke of Augustine. I just can't encourage y'all. I don't even wait. I subscribe. And if you're interested in having his cartoons show up on your phone at 8 o'clock in the morning, write me and I'll make that happen for you, because I can't wait for the Instagram. He gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning. The ideas are in his head from the day before, and he dreams them and all of that. And he gets up in the morning and he makes these cartoons from 5 o'clock to 8, and then he goes out and he's a carpenter and a builder. Anyhow, I get it. This is from Little Kel, who was writing from Ohio, and she said, I'm wondering what is going to be the new venue now. How will we see you? She's talking about after we're done with clay tablets with Grant Peeples. And she says, does the stage await? What is next? What are your post-COVID dreams? How has this changed you? Well, there's a lot of questions. I'm just going to start with the last one about how has it changed you? And I was kind of asking Gurf that, I think. And I really don't think COVID, I don't think being quarantined, I don't think the pandemic has really changed me. It has taught me a lot about myself, and it's required me to test myself in certain ways. I just didn't know if I was up for it. And so in some ways, if there are any silver linings, I feel like I've been through something, and we're not through it yet, as we said, but I've been through something that has shown me that I'm capable of doing other things that require some discipline and some being, as Pema Chodron says, you just sit there through it. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've gotten out of all of that. We heard from Jess and Teresa. Now, I thought they were in Pennsylvania, but I got this from Ohio. He makes maple syrup up there, and he's used to send me some. I hadn't gotten any in a while, but he said, greetings from the great white north. Teresa wants to know, what do you want to be when you grow up? Well, when I grow up, Teresa, what I want to be is a kind of a stooped over, wrinkled wiser version of who I am now. Yeah. And I got this from Janet. This is a really dear supporter of mine, and she's from Florida. She's a cracker girl. She says, in yesterday's clay tablet invitation, she's talking about what got mailed out. I think there might have been a typo. It said, Grant's time producer, mentor, and friend, Gurf Morlix. You might think that noticing the probable omission of a word like long or one or part in front of the phrase means that I'm one of those grammar Nazis. Instead, I was just stricken by the idea that someone was described as a time producer. What magical thinking if Gurf or if anyone could only produce or make more time. Well, let me tell you something about Gurf Morlix, Janet. I have been in the studio and I have actually witnessed him make more time. Now, we were actually tracking a song one time, and we had recorded the song, and I had these lyrics down, and I knew what I wanted to say, or at least I thought I did. But after we had recorded the music, I went, no, I need to say something else, and it was more words. And I went to Gurf and I said, I don't want to have to come back and record the whole thing, because it's going to make the song, it's going to make the song longer because I've added. He said, no problem. And he went in there on that track, which was 3 minutes and 52 seconds long, and he somehow opened it up like that, and it actually ended up being 4 minutes long, and I was able to sing the words that I wanted to sing. Gurf Morlix is a time producer. I got a letter from somebody that lives right around the block from me, a girl I went to school with. Her name is Charlotte. And she said, I have noticed that everyone who went to Leon High School is proud of it. Is it just me, or have other people said the same thing? And we do, a lot of people. I went, Leon High School was from the early 1920s, I believe in 1910, because my grandmother went to Leon High School, my mother went there, and I went there. And yeah, people are proud of it. I don't know if I'm exactly what you would call proud of it, but I'm aware of it being a part of who I am and how instrumental me going to that school affected my life. And it's a grand old building on the top of the hill on East Tennessee Street. And thank you for that letter, Charlotte. I got another letter, a note from Robin, who is in South Carolina. And she said, Grant, I'm sure there will be much to talk about on January 19th with all that's happened. And my mind at times has no time to catch up or rest. So I'd like to hear more about your dad. I love that he's involved with clay tablets. You're a lucky man to still have your father and to have a relationship with him. Yeah, you're so right, Charlotte. And I just, Robin, and I just only had kind of one response to that. And I just would like to read you a poem. If you want to hear more about my dad, it's a poem I wrote. It's in my poetry book that I wrote about my dad, and it's called Father. You bold man, grand engine of dreams, delightful twirler of tales, through whose kaleidoscope words I have seen the world and tasted of it like a wet fruit between my teeth. You rightful man, proud and certain firm, by whom I measure men. You too have been a victim of winds and flood, but have never paled. And through your loins I have sprung 6 foot, to stand and turn and leap forth from your shadow. And there, in your spinning, glowing sphere, bold man, I have seen and heard, I feel certain, sufficient truth to blaze my path. So that's some more about my dad. Here's something from Carrie in Springfield, Vermont. And she says, what cure is there for truth based on lies? I don't think there are truth based on lies. I think I think it's impossible to have a truth that is based on lie, but I think it's very possible to craft a lie out of something that is projected to be the truth. And I don't know the cure for that other than calling it out. This is from Arlene in Minneapolis, and she said, questions for the show. What is the most challenging thing for you? My most challenging thing is staying on task, Arlene. What characteristics learned or inherited from your parents do you like the most about yourself? I would say that at an early age in both of my parents, I saw moral courage. And while I can't say that I inherited that, I can say that my parents set the bar for me, and I can aspire to that, and that I value that. Who is the most famous person you've met? Muhammad Ali? The Willard Hotel, Washington, D.C., maybe. I don't know. Gurf Morlix? I met this guy named Eden Pastora, who was a major revolutionary in Nicaragua. He was pretty famous, but I think Muhammad Ali probably takes the cake. What is the most memorable event of your lifetime? My most memorable event lasted 11 years, and it was living on an island off the coast of Nicaragua. And we're almost done. Dear Grant, and this is from Maggie, another neighbor of mine. She lives, we have people come writing all the way from Minneapolis, and then somebody wrote from right around the corner. It says, Dear Grant, how can a little old nobody like me smash the fascist? Your fan, Maggie. Well, Maggie, it's easy, because the first thing you have to remember is that there are more of us than there are of them, which means if you smash one, you have disproportionately made a dent into the fascist. So just pick one out and smash them, and then try to get some other Maggies to do the same thing. And then, Dear Mr. Peeples, this letter is to advise you that your overdue balance on your account has been handed. Oh, never mind that. Well, I think that's got all our. One more here. I just got a little gift from my friend Jimmy, who's a boat builder. He has a boat building company called Good Little Boats down in St. Pete. And he just wrote a letter and sent me 2 gifts. And he said, here's a small gift for you and another, a small gift for you. He's another marginally talented singer. And it's a stamp of Frank Sinatra, and one for Ruthie. And it's a stamp, these look like old stamps. And this is a Mickey Mantle. Thank you, Jimmy. I want one of your boats bad. That's it for viewer mail. There will be a lot of autopsies, postmortems, reviews of the last 4 years in that administration. History is going to be replete with them. But I think if anybody wants to try to come in and do that study, you might want to begin with what Bob Schaefer said last week on Face the Nation.
Margaret, America has never experienced anything like the Trump presidency. It is ending as it began, in chaos, controversy, and confusion. He told us America was broken and only he could fix it. His reign mirrored his own chaotic life. He lurched from one crisis to another, from financial windfalls to bankruptcies, from tabloid scandals to audacious lies. He introduced us to a bizarre cast of characters, from porn stars to the crackpots and clowns who inhabit the dark fringes of American politics. Some, like Rudy Giuliani, seemed to melt before our eyes as his hair dye trickled down his cheek during a news conference. Most he touched were diminished by the experience. Others who sought power by riding the back of the tiger wound up inside. He played down the pandemic and found kind words for Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un, but seemed determined to drive a wedge between America and our traditional allies. Yes, the stock market went up, but the nation's deficit and national debt ballooned to record levels. As we saw in those awful scenes unfolding in the Capitol, we came to understand that the man who had a manic desire for power had no real understanding of the power he possessed or what happens when it is misused. He will be gone soon, but he showed us America was not broken. He was.
Bob Schaefer. Man, I remember when Dan Rather left the program and they were looking for somebody and they wanted somebody that was young and sleek. I wanted Bob Schaefer to have that job so bad, and they let him come in and do it for a while. He was the interim, but what a really wise fellow from Texas. He's painting these days, by the way. Let's do some art. As y'all know, we've kind of not been doing as much art, and a few pieces came up this month that I wanted to show. My friend Matthew McCarron did a piece. Matthew had COVID. He is a COVID survivor. We have another piece here this is a friend of mine from Georgia. He's now living in Las Vegas. His name is John Reid. You got to look at this one real carefully. You see a tree, don't you? Now look at the tree, and now there's a person in that tree holding their hand up and an inverted SOS under them. That is a line drawing. It is, to me, phenomenal. Way to go, John Reid. You can follow him on Facebook, R-E-I-D, John Reid. If you'd like to, he is just like Zeke of Augustine. He works every day, grinding it out. Gets up, goes to work. Now we have two more, but I want to kind of just, I saw these over the last month, and when I saw them, they weren't actually paired together, but they are from the same artist. The amazing Maizey is her name, the amazing Maizey. And she, I wanted to talk to her, but she's kind of reclusive, and she doesn't really talk too much to people. But there's two, and they're kind of juxtaposed. And the first one is Angry Bear. And then the next one is Happy Pig. And I just saw that as the two, the juxtaposing emotional animals, which we get to decide which one we want to be. Do we want to be an angry bear, or do we want to be a happy pig? I don't know. But Maizey specializes in the happy pigs. Be more from the amazing Maizey in our next show. All right. How about we check back in with Donna? Donna, are you there? Pete, can you unmute Donna? You there, Donna?
I've been unmuted.
You have been unmuted. Hey, listen, I forgot to just thank you. Please tell us briefly. We're running a little short time, but tell me the story about your son and his ballot. You guys up there in Georgia, y'all elected two Democratic senators, and one was African American, the other one was Jewish, and you pulled it off and you made it happen. And tell me about your son's voting. What did he do?
Well, my son is living out in San Diego, but his residence is still here in Georgia. So here's where he votes. He thought he was coming home for Christmas, and he was going to vote early after that here in town. But his girlfriend tested positive for COVID, so he couldn't come. So he paid $70 to overnight his absentee ballot here so that I could put it in the ballot box.
Well, I just don't know if it would have happened with that. That's just a great story. And a young man, he's out there trying to make a name for himself in 70. My guess is his mother probably covered some of that, but in any event, we won't even go into that. In any event, thank you for making that happen. Okay, birds. Did you take any pictures of birds at your bird feeder this month?
Well, I was not getting any new visitors for some reason, and then fortuitously, one of our viewers sent me a video of bird life at her house. Okay. And she's from Austin. Her name is Brindy, and she sent a video in, which I think Pete's going to put on for us.
He's got it right now. Let's listen. Now, if Jack Williams was watching, he would tell us what kind of bird that is, because Jack Williams knows those kind of things. He can just hear them and knows what they are. But do you know what kind of bird that is, Donna?
Yes, it is a cedar waxwing.
A cedar.
They're flocking together, and I have a picture so you can see a close-up of what a beautiful bird it is.
Okay, Pete. Oh, there it is, right there. Okay, so this just made me think. If we were doing this show over, and it's just like it's making a record. Every time I've ever made a record, you make the record, and then it gets out, and then you go, you know what I should have done? We should have had oboe on that song. But what we should have done early on is we should have been asking our viewers to send in pictures of their birds at their feeders at their house. We got one more show. I think we ought to do that, and we ought to just make the pitch right now. To people, please send us it's got to be at your residence. That would be the thing, and just send it to us, and we would love to, on our last broadcast, to be able to show and tell us what the birds are, if you can. Tell us where you are and what you believe the birds are, and we would love to. Do you think that's a good idea? I mean, I've already pitched it, so you need to go along with it.
No, I love it. I really do. It'll be our video montage.
Okay.
You can email it to grant@grantpeoples.com. Or you could send it to either one of our Facebook pages.
All right, good. All right, Donna, thank you so much. We're rolling out of here. We got to do our tweets from God, and as I've told y'all before, Gurf Morlix introduced me to God in Winslow, Arizona in 2014, and I'm just going to run through a few of these tweets that God's been tweeting as of late. I make no promises about 2021 except that it will suck differently. And he was talking about Kelly McEnany here. She says, God says, actually, she lies the way that most people with COVID breathe. Terribly, excruciatingly, and because of Donald Trump. Here's another one. I don't tell you I love you enough. And there's a reason for that. Here's one he put out last week. He says, there are a lot of reasons why what's happening is happening. But believing in me sure isn't helping. Here's one he wrote. He said, Dear Mr. Hitler, I am resigning from the Nazi Party. I'm sorry, but for me, your killing of the 6 millionth Jew was an inflection point. Here's one. With great power comes zero responsibility. Yeah, well, I think we got two more. Hang on. Sentencing the serial killer to life in prison would only lead to more hate. We need unity, and the best way to get it is to let the serial killer go free. Okay, and here's the final one. Donald Trump has absolutely no convictions, but that's about to change. Those are our tweets from God. All right, we're going to close out here tonight. I want to thank everybody. It's been a good show. We've had a lot of people on. I'm just totally moved by the support that we've gotten for this, and I just can't thank you enough. And I really feel like not only are people supporting it, but people have been a part of it, and you have sustained me emotionally and spiritually and creatively over the last 11 months. And thank you so much. I want to thank Maddie Walsh, who was here tonight. You're going to be hearing a lot more about Maddie Walsh in the ensuing months. Her husband, Suave. You can go to their website. It's The Blind Spots. That's the name of her band, theblindspots.com, and learn more about her. I want to thank David Holtz, who farmed up those pictures that we used at the opening segment. And I want to thank all the people who wrote in letters with questions, and I hope you will write again. So we're going to close out with the song, and this is from my good friend Richard Smith in Chicago, who's been a big supporter of this program. This song was not on the charts. It was scheduled for us to do it, and then over the last few days, the current occupant of the White House has been doing two things. One is he has been pardoning criminals, and two, he has been executing people. And pardons and executions. And it is really a vulgar display of power. And it is, we all know that turns his crank, that he can do that, and that he wields that kind of authority over people's lives and over right and wrong. I heard about the hanging this morning, and I rode on into town. And there were gallows nailed up on the square, and a big crowd had gathered all around, selling postcards and cotton candy, crucifixes and American flags. I seen a woman, she wept at the gallows steps. She held a little bird in her hand. And she said,
I'm not crying for him. I don't even know his name. What he done was a sin against God, to be reckoned come judgment day. I'm crying for what we've become, turning our flesh to dust. No, I'm not crying over him, I'm crying about us.
The prisoner climbed the gallows steps. You could feel excitement in the crowd as that noose got lowered down over his head, and his face, it was covered with a shroud. And that woman held her little bird to her breast as the order rang loud and clear. And I heard a crack as they snapped his neck, and the crowd, it let out a cheer. And she said,
I'm not crying for him. I don't even know his name. Yeah, what he done was a sin against God, to be reckoned come judgment day. I'm crying for what we've become, turning our flesh to dust. No, I'm not crying over him, I'm crying about us.
well, they cut him down and they hauled him off. And the people, they all gone home. And the wind blew trash through the empty streets where that woman, she stood all alone. And then she knelt down on the gallows steps and she bowed her head to pray. And then she raised her hands above her head. Let that little bird fly away. And she said, I'm not crying for him. I don't even know his name. And what he done was a sin against God, to be reckoned come judgment day. I'm crying for what we've become, turning our flesh to dust. Oh, and I'm not crying over him, I'm crying about us. Oh, and I'm not crying over him,
I'm crying about us.